If you appreciate the crazy properties in technical fabrics like XPAC or Ultra, the fact that they're super lightweight, super strong, and highly waterproof, but you don't particularly love how they look, Alpaka's new in-house ULTRADYNE might be a compelling option for you. So on this video, I'll share my early impressions of the ULTRADYNE fabric. I've been rocking the 2-liter flight sling as well as the 1-liter one in the 2 different ULTRADYNE colors. Given the fact that this is a newer technology, I'm gonna be focused more on the look and feel and comparing it to an XPAC or an Ultra. And then I'll do a bit more of a technical deep dive so you can see where it stacks up performance-wise against those other advanced technical fabrics. And then ultimately I'll share my thoughts on who's gonna get the most value out of ULTRADYNE. So let's get into it. The cool thing about Alpaka doing this is that if you look at the vast majority of the other carry brands on the market, they're getting their advanced fabrics from Challenge sailcloth, whether it's XPAC or Ultra or EcoPack. Alpaka designed and developed this in-house, so if long-term it ends up performing in the way that they say it will, this will be a point of differentiation within their product line. They're slowly rolling it out across slings and pouches, and I imagine it's only a matter of time before you can get it across their most popular options. Similar to Ultra, the main part of the composition is ULTRA, which stands for ultra high molecular weight polyethylene. And they're these really strong, lightweight fibers that are 10 to 15 times stronger than steel per gram. And they're woven fibers, and then it's backed with a laminate that gives it some structure and water resistance. And then it's reinforced with a recycled nylon grid, which helps with just like the abrasion resistance and the overall durability. Now, in my opinion, not to get like super in the weeds with the technical stuff, I'll leave that to the end. I think whether you go with ULTRADYNE or XPAC or Ultra or EcoPack, they're all fabrics that, especially for a sling, unless you're like an absolute savage with the way that you carry and treat your things, it's gonna be really overkill. I know like shaving weight is always important. The difference in weight between one of these and then they're like traditional 400D Axoflux, which I actually really like this shell fabric. I think for a sling, it's not a huge deal. I think the more important value add is waterproofing. And so if you live in a place where it does rain a lot and you just wanna have that peace of mind, you don't carry an umbrella with you, then that's one big reason for it, right? Or when you're traveling, if you're going somewhere where you know you're gonna get a lot of rain, then you're buying some additional peace of mind. So when it comes to deciding between all these fabric options, it really just comes down to the look and the feel for me, because they're all gonna be highly water resistant and they're all gonna be really strong and lightweight. So let me move this guy to the side. I'm gonna be focusing primarily on XPAC and Ultra. I love EcoPack. Of the technical fabrics, it's, I think, my favorite one, because of the look and the hand feel, but I feel like it's also much less readily available than XPAC and Ultra within the carry world. So one place where I feel like ULTRADYNE wins over XPAC or the traditional Ultra is that it looks the least technical, in that the grid ply lines are very subtle. You have to get really up close to it to really see them, whereas they are definitely visible on XPAC and even more visible on Ultra. With Ultra also, you get this like wrinkling effect. As it ages, it gets more and more wrinkly. So it's definitely pretty polarizing in that sense. I think there's people that will love it from the moment that they get it. I think a lot of people do not like it whatsoever. And then you have people like myself where mixed feelings at first, but it has really, really grown on me. I would say of the 3, the Ultra looks the most technical, followed by XPAC, with ULTRADYNE being the least technical. So if you work in a very professional setting, you live in a place where you would reap the benefits of having those waterproofing properties, or just having something that's stronger, there's nothing wrong with appreciating something that is overkill for the sake of being overkill. But I do find that this one will blend in the best in a more professional setting because of those reasons. Now, on the flip side, the crunchy sound factor on this guy is a lot more noticeable than on XPAC and Ultra. I've seen people complaining about how loud XPAC and Ultra is, and honestly, like, I'm crazy. I have my own like weird tactile sensitivity, so I totally get it. Personally, while yes, I do find that XPAC and Ultra are going to be louder than a lot of other fabrics, like a ballistic nylon, for example, it's never really been unpleasant enough for me that it's a deterrent. So I don't pay too much attention to it. I feel like Ultra compared to, this is like the 400X Ultra on Air Simple Kit compared to the X42 XPAC. Maybe the XPAC is a little louder, but again, it's not like the end of the world. But then you compare it to the ULTRADYNE, and the ULTRADYNE is it feels like the way the laminate backing is attached to the fibers feels like looser. And so it creates a very crunchy sound. And now it's not that it necessarily feels cheap, because the fabric, when you feel it up close and you look at it up close, it definitely looks refined and sophisticated, and I really like how it looks. But when you interact with it, having that crunchiness, to me, deters a little bit from the overall premium experience that they're trying to create with a sophisticated fabric like this. Now, even though it is the crunchiest, I feel like of the three, it is like the smoothest. A big part of it is also we're not comparing apples to apples. This is a 100 denier shell fabric. This is a 420 and this is a 400. So it's not really a fair comparison. But what I've found is that the X42 and the 400X Ultra are typically the most readily available variants of those fabrics. The VX21 is pretty popular as well, and it does feel a little bit smoother than this. Also worth calling out is that it has the most matte finish out of all of them. I find that XPAC, under the sunlight, it has a bit of like a shine, a reflectiveness to it. And then Ultra, maybe a bit more subtle, but especially a darker version of it, a subtle bit of shine. So anyways, let's get into the technical side of things. I'm gonna throw a graphic right now on the screen that's gonna show weight, tear strength, abrasion resistance, and waterproof rating. But the TLDR is that of the three, between a 100 denier version of the ULTRADYNE, a 420 denier XPAC, and then a 400 denier Ultra, ULTRADYNE is the lightest, followed by Ultra, followed by XPAC. In terms of tear strength, Ultra is the strongest, but then followed by ULTRADYNE and then XPAC, and then same exact order for abrasion resistance, and they're all very waterproof. I'm not gonna get into the minutia of which one is more waterproof than the other, because ultimately they all function really well in that sense, and I wouldn't pick one over the other for that reason. But yeah, I think for anyone that either obviously appreciates the look and feel of Ultra, or you don't really care about the look and feel, you are a min-maxer, you want the best performance out of a fabric on paper, then that's gonna be Ultra, right? Even though the ULTRADYNE is a little bit lighter, this is a 400 denier version of it, and you get something that's significantly stronger and more abrasion resistant. Where it gets very interesting is that ULTRADYNE, despite it being 100 denier compared to like a 420 denier XPAC, it still has more tear strength and abrasion resistance, which is really impressive. Typically 100 to 200 denier fabrics are reserved for liner materials, and they're using it for a shell fabric. Technically speaking, they could rock this really lightweight fabric on a full-on backpack. I don't know if when they introduce this for a backpack, maybe they'll have a 200 or 300 denier version of it, but I think that's a pretty impressive thing that they've been able to address. Now, the other important consideration is with these technical laminate fabrics, despite the fact that these high-end materials offer really amazing properties, the fact that they're laminate backed to give it structure, resistance to the elements, heat and humidity can over time give it visual signs of age, delamination. And candidly, there are XPAC products that I've used for a long time that are perfectly intact still. And then there's others, like for example, this is the Air toiletry bag that I've had less than a year, and it hasn't really been outside. It goes from a bag to a bathroom, and you can see like some pimpling on it. So if things like that drive you crazy, maybe just keep it simple. Now, I asked the Alpaka team to tell me about like whether or not this is immune to delamination, and apparently the high temperature glue that they're using adapts better to the polyethylene. So what they claim is that it doesn't show the visual signs of delamination as much. We shall see long term. What I can say is that because the grid patterns, like those ply lines, are a lot more subdued, and at least for pimpling, that's typically where you see that appearing. I could see that being a functional advantage of this. They do say that pimpling is due to how the fabric is cut. If you use a laser cutter to cut it, it should be a lot less prone to pimpling compared to a die cutter. So new technologies popping up every day, just trying to stay on top of it. But yeah, final thoughts. I think if you're looking for a fabric that is lightweight, strong, waterproof, and looks as minimally technical as possible, ULTRADYNE is a fantastic option, as long as you are not like super sensitive to sounds, and having a more crunchy fabric isn't gonna deter from your experience as much. But yeah, really curious to see how over time it ages. And yeah, if people over time are sufficiently drawn to the fabric that it becomes a compelling enough reason to choose an Alpaka product over an Air product. And something that would be really interesting to see for more carry companies to start developing their own fabrics. Can't be cheap, can't be easy, but best of luck. Cheers.